Welcome, my name is Kelly.
And I'm Emma.
And this is Fanimated, an animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media. Today, I have Emma here with me to give us her final episode. So, reminder, Fanimated is retiring, and you'll be able to find our entire episode archives as well as any new upcoming content on the Fanimated YouTube channel. And I'll give you a whole bunch more information about that at the end of the episode. But for now, we are talking about one of our favorite anime. And I know I say that every time. But Emma and I bonded in our early anime days over Beyond the Boundary. The dark fantasy, romance, action anime that does it all.
Yes. And we have been geeking out about it for a long time. I feel like in snippets on different episodes throughout the podcast, but we never got to it. So we're like, you know what? Last time we are definitely hitting this anime as our last time together here.
And I'm so glad you chose this one. Like Emma, there's a list a mile long of things we could talk about still. But it's like, oh yeah, this one's high on the list. So I'm really glad that we chose this one. And so for those who don't know, Beyond the Boundary is synopsises are always the hardest things.
And this
right?
one's pretty weird.
It's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here's the thing. Beyond the Boundary is your basic anime fare in the terms of there's this world where there's these, demon spirits, pick your descriptor, and there are people who fight the demons, right? That is very anime. It's all over. But this one takes it in a completely different direction because our female protagonist falls in love with a demon.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the premise here.
Exactly.
And in the midst of this mind-blowing action, by the way, it's really great. There's also cute high school things.
Yes, because while they're fighting demons, they're also high school students. So,
Exactly. And so you get all these cute little relationships. And, this episode, we're going to be idol singers now.
Our favorite one.
Oh, silly little things like that on top of, the world is ending action drama, which is just, how do these two things mix? I don't know, but they do in this show, and it's great.
And it's awesome. Yeah, I love that it is such a crazy mix of almost genres because you've got the high school life, which is more in the shoujo field, and then you've also got the fantasy and demon fighting, which could be both shonen or I don't know, it's kind of out of body experience in some ways. So
yeah,
there's just so many different genres meshing together, and it's awesome.
It's so good. And so, going into our experiences of this show, this for me might have been the second anime I watched, or second or third. It's real early for me because after I'd watched all the Full Metals, I was just looking for other stuff, and this was coming out during that time I was searching for new things. So I was watching this every week, as it was airing. And did I introduce this one to you then?
You did, yes.
Okay. Because all I remember is that Emma and I were abroad for school, and we were in Ireland, and we would just be let's just
watch anime.
And so we'd watch Snow White with Red Hair.
Oh, yeah.
And things. I don't know if we watched this one, but it's that. That's what this era makes me think of is Beyond the Boundary type things, right? And so it was really. I'll just jump ahead and say it's really jarring for me rewatching it with English dub.
Oh my goodness! I was gonna mention that eventually. I think we had to have watched it and subbed back then.
There was no other
I don't
option.
think there was another option. And this time when the streaming service that had it was only English dub.
Yeah.
And it was so weird, and I kind of didn't like it.
Me too.
Like, I know we geek out on this show, obviously, and we're not putting this show down at all because we love this.
It's so good.
But I have to say, the dub was really hard to watch. Like the matching of the words was not great. So that was very difficult.
Yeah.
And kind of going along with like our experience of watching the show, I would say this show is also like an earlier one for me. A little later because you introduced it, so it might have been like a year and a half of anime watching before I got to this one. But rewatching it again, I was like, there is so much that I do not remember that is like coming to, like, obviously like I know the basics, but I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like things just like came up in a new light. And the English dub was something so new because I was like, whoa, I'm not used to these voices. Like that was definitely strange.
You know, one thing that I noticed for me rewatching it was like, I was like it's just like when kids watch something and they're like, this is the coolest stuff ever because they don't have any context for anything else. It's like, I'm rewatching this and I still think it's amazing, but I am just like, because I'm watching it not from a new anime like beginner standpoint, but like having watched a lot of anime, I'm like, if I had seen this for the first time now, it would like be so different for me.
It would be underwhelming.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if I would agree with that, like, because we have experience watching so much anime and also some like really cool new animation techniques and everything. Yeah. Like you watch this and you're like, oh, that happened. Like, but like when you first watch it, that was the magic then.
Oh, it was.
Like it was so cool when we watched it for the first time. And once again, not to say that it's not cool anymore. It's totally cool.
Oh, it's
but
still
it's as anime watchers ourselves, it's just like, oh, wow, that is not as like grandiose as I once thought.
Or groundbreaking.
Yeah.
You know, because like jumping ahead, I mean, the real twist is not only that this guy that she falls in love with is a half demon, but that like he's housing like the baddest of the bad
inside of him. Yep.
And so they have to fight him. And it's like, twist, whoa. And like I remember watching this for the first time and like absolutely dying inside because I was like, no, it can't be, they can't do this to me. And like now it's just like maybe a little less impactful, you know, because it's like, it's not that revolutionary. Calm down, Fast Kelly.
Right. But at the time it felt groundbreaking.
Oh yeah, which is, you know, still why I love going back to it, and still why like it's still fun, it's still good.
Yeah, and the animation is still like really cool to watch. I mean, my favorite part is, so our main character Kuriyama. Well, one, who doesn't love a anime with a redhead protagonist? Am I right? But she has this skill. Do they call it? She's part of the cursed tribe that has blood demon art. Is that what they call it?
Her like cursed blood or whatever.
The cursed blood tribe. And so she has a bandage around her hand, and so when she unleashes it, her blood comes out and forms into a sword, or she can spray it, or make it do crazy things. And the animation with all the blood combat and whatnot was really cool to watch. Like, I really enjoyed the action scenes because they were just colorful and lots of movement happening. So those were fun to watch again.
Yes, and I'm just looking up because I'm trying to look up the brother's name again.
Hiromi.
I love his power because he like has all these like shields and stuff, and I still think those look really cool animation wise. Like I don't know.
Because there's like a bunch of blue squares, right?
Yeah, it feels really satisfying to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also like Mitsuki, that's Hiromi's sister, and she's got like this little animal on her shoulder that does her fighting for her. Yeah. I think that's cute too. Very fun. It's fun because like in this show you get to see like all these spirit warriors who have different abilities. But it's not as like, it's not like My Hero Academia where everybody has a different weird quirk. It's more like they're all kind of related, but just slightly different. I don't know how else to describe it, but I like that it's unique enough. And maybe that's because it is in a fantasy realm instead of like very standard shonen.
Yes,
but
it is. It's a very different. It's just very different vibe. Yeah, in general.
I will say, like, again, going back to the English dub.
Yeah.
This was kind of hard for me to watch because our main guy protagonist, Akihito, his voice actor is like one of the main guys in Haikyuu. And so all I could think of...
see, I never ever remember. And then we have these conversations and you tell me who the actor is. And then it finally clicks into my brain.
And so like all I could hear was volleyball guy.
Oh, no.
And Mitsuki, she is the girl who plays the main character in Maid Sama and Mira Jane from Fairy Tail. So like that's all I could hear the whole time. It was
yeah.
This feels strange.
So strange. It's always so strange. Yeah, English dub as well. Also, and we don't mean to be like trash talking. This is not.
Nope.
We are just. It is just what it is. The other thing about this show that I totally forgot was just how weirdly perverted some things were.
Yeah. Yes. So for those of you who have watched anime, you've probably seen some brother-sister relationships that are a little weird. Like they're just super close and lovey-dovey with each other and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we have one of those situations in this one. The sister does not reciprocate, but it's still strange.
It is still strange that this brother is overly obsessed with his sister.
Yes. He just wants to be a brother and have her be the perfect little sister. And
it is weird.
Yes. And then also our main guy, he is obsessed with any girl who has glasses. The bespectacled beauties, I believe is what he calls them.
Yes. Oh no.
Hence why he loves Kuriyama so much.
And we've talked about this before, but Japan just has this completely different culture around like all of this, and like there's more humor in it than there is for us in the United States. Mm-hmm. There's less humor in those kind of perverted jokes. It's so it is what we got. Mm-hmm. And so again, neither of the girls reciprocate these particular advances, but yeah. There's always something strange. And so, don't know how I got through that when I first watched it, when I didn't.
It probably was like okay, moving on.
Yeah, like, the more anime you watch, the more you just like, it doesn't faze you as much.
Yeah, it's true.
But at the time. So, anyways, besides that.
And partially, I think, is because most of those characters who are pervier are not glorified as like the hero or a good person, so that's a little bit more of justification of like, well, he's an idiot, so moving on. Exactly.
They get repercussions, but not as much as like they should. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it is uncomfortable, but it's not honored in any way.
Correct.
Yeah. So there's so much to say about I don't know. There's so much that happens. Like, it's a pretty short series. It's 12 episodes. But I feel like they do a good job of having some, like, more episodic things, but still having this overarching story. The mystery of learning about our two main characters, Akihito and Kiriyama. Like, they both have their secrets, and that's what's unraveling throughout the show. And then, honestly, one of the biggest, like, longest, endings, I feel like. Like, the ending is pretty epic and big, but lasts, like, several episodes, like, I feel like, you know what I mean?
Sure, yep.
So that's a little different. They spend a lot of time on that, but it still is, like, what I'm trying to say is, in such a short amount of time, in 12 episodes, you still feel like you got to know the characters well enough for that big ending to like have an impact.
Right. I would agree. I even think that this show could have benefited from being a little bit longer, just to get a little bit more of that development in the plot. But I would agree that you still get like those episodic moments that you would in a long anime. I really like how the show starts with Akihito and Kuriyama, and he thinks that Kuriyama is about to commit suicide because she's on the edge of a building. But, you know, she has crazy powers, so she's just standing up there. And that is his moment where he runs after her to stop her. And that's where we get the catalyst of their relationship, of what is this really all about? And eventually they ask each other the question, like, do you know what it is to be normal? And I think that's a big theme that plays along in the story, because like I said, you start off with Akihito wanting to rescue Kuriyama in the very beginning, and then you realize, oh, Kuriyama has been trying to kill him. So she's running after him constantly, trying to kill him, but he's immortal, so he just keeps getting stabbed and not dying.
Oh man, it makes for this pretty amusing game of tag.
Yes, very amusing and unfortunately painful game of tag.
Yes.
But the more that they continually battle each other, the more they start to understand each other. Exactly. Because originally Kuriyama is just like, well, you're half demon, so I have to obliterate you. Obviously. That's my job. Yeah. But realizing there's so much more to him as a person. Exactly.
Yeah. And getting to know all the characters in that way and having them all have that relationship, because like she is on this mission to kill him, and like all the people around him, you know, I guess as in the siblings, Mitsuki and Hirumi, but like they also are there to protect people from him, you know what I mean? And like and yet still like developing a relationship and develop, you know, they in the high school sense are like this literary club or whatever, and they still like are learning about each other and developing relationships, so they're more than just their duties, you know? And so I like that a lot.
Yeah, they're trying to learn how to be both students and also fulfilling their duties in the spirit realm too. Yeah, and as Kuriyama gets to know the rest of Akihito's friends, and like in the literary club that does literally nothing, she gets to know more demons who are on the sides of humans, and they're good demons and they want to help the humans out. It's really fun to see her perspective change, because at the beginning she's so black and white in her thinking. Yeah. And it's her relationship with Akihito that allows her to open up and realize that the spirit realm is so much more complicated.
Yes, absolutely. And it is. There's like layers and different types of demons and other things going on, and so it's a little more complicated. And I still really like this kind of the dynamic of the different clans and the different families, you know, and that's not completely novel either, but like it makes it feel like there's so much more to this world of demons and you know, spirit warriors than what's just presented to us, you know what I mean? So that's really helpful too, just having that, like, it's always good to have the sense of like the bigger world around them.
Yeah. And like I said, they ask themselves that question of like, do you know what it is to be a normal person? And Akihito like takes that as like, this is who I am, like this is life for me. And that is when Kuriyama like has no idea what his like internal life is like, because yes, she is from a cursed clan, and so she's had to deal with a lot on her shoulders, especially since she's the only living member. And but in the end she realizes like this guy was so kind to me, did not fight back ever, and yet I had no idea what was going on inside of him.
Yes.
Which is the beyond the boundary.
Yeah. Having this horrible thing that he's carrying. And that's originally why I loved it, and why I still do, is that whole, like, you don't, like, here she is wallowing in her own self-pity, which, like, is warranted in some respects, because she also, one of the big, like, beats is, like, she killed, you know, another girl, killed her friend, and, like, all of these horrible things that are happening to her, and she is just, like, has no one in the world.
Living in her guilt, just...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then she looks at this other person, and suddenly you see him in a completely different light, and she sees him in a completely different light of, like, oh my gosh, you're carrying something even worse. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, you never know what people are carrying. Mm-hmm. And also, you can't just assume, like, no, they're, you know, in the same boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's so much more to everybody.
Right. And we're not always in control of our circumstances. Like with Akihito, he kind of goes werewolf mode, where if his demon side is evoked, or like if he's under, like, if he's just been harmed and is under a lot of stress, or something's going on really heavily, like, he'll turn to that demon side, and he doesn't know friend from foe, and is vicious, and trying to calm him down and get it back to normal is an insane process. But he goes on living as if he has hope all the time. Mm-hmm. And, like, he goes on to live. Like, he knows what's inside of him. I mean, not completely at first.
Yeah.
But he knows that he's half demon and that he's capable of these actions. But he doesn't live life in fear of what he's capable of. He's just like, this is a part of who I am, and I'm going to do my best to be the best part of me, which is really inspiring.
Absolutely. And something that, you know, Kiriyama is also having to learn, because she is kind of afraid of her own ability, like, literally, because she killed someone. And so she's afraid to use that ability and to ever do that again. It's like constantly keeping her from pursuing, you know, anything. And so it's like her whole life is just this guilt. So it's like, it's just like, yeah, it is inspiring. And it's so like, it's just such a good story-wise. It all just, like, fits together so neatly in this little compact little thing. Like, their relationship is not only, like, this love story, but it's, like, in the context of this, you know, demon world and things. It's just, like, they complement each other very well.
Yeah. And you mentioned how she lives, like, in self-pity, and I think Kiriyama looks at the world as if, like, I cannot be forgiven. I have committed the worst of sins, and there's no hope for me but to keep fighting demons. Like, that's the only purpose I have. So she lives in that idea of never being forgiven, which cuts her off from creating relationships with people. And it's so funny how this literary club that has spirit warriors and half demons in it is, like, letting her come into their circle, and just is not just letting her come in, but are pushing her into their circle to become friends and see the world differently and have hope for life. And I don't think she expected to be learning that from this specific group of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was not in her agenda at all.
Yeah. Nope.
Oh, so good. Did you have a favorite episode?
Yes, I did have a favorite episode. I believe it's the one that's called Shocking Pink. And it's where they practice a lot to defeat this demon. So let me get a little synopsis here. So Kiriyama, Akihito, and then the siblings Mitsuki and Hiromi, all of them together, like, we're gonna defeat this demon. Well, it starts with just Kiriyama. She wants to defeat this demon because it's worth a lot of money, and she is broke. So she needs that money.
Yeah.
But the thing is, whenever this demon senses danger or is like afraid that someone's coming for them, they like basically vomit everywhere, and this whole pool of grossness just floods everywhere. So people have a lot of difficulty defeating this demon, and understandably so. So they try a couple different methods, and it's funny. And it's funny because in this episode, you see them try, you see the flood come through, and then it's like the next day or next week. Like, so it's all these different attempts, and it always ends with them sad in the shower, like, oh, that didn't work. Well, eventually, like, they're learning about what the demon likes, which is, it started off with, like, flirtations, and then it developed into, like, oh, I guess they like pop music and da-da-da. And so the four of them work for a week. They train their butts off.
There's a training montage.
It's so good. And they are singing and dancing, doing this K-pop routine. They've got costumes and everything. Their performance is absolutely spectacular.
It's so good.
It's so good. I love seeing the guys dance in the background.
And then at the end, the little girl comes out, and I'm just like, yeah.
Yes. She's like another, she's a demon who works at Lady Ayaka's shop. So,
and she's so cute and funny.
She's super cute. Her original form is like a cat, but this is her girl form. And so she comes out, and super cute performance, well done. And at the very end, they're like, yes, we finally got him. And then just like in one moment of trying to destroy the creature, the floods come again. And so it's it's such a funny episode to me, because it's like the whole entire time you think, okay, they're gonna defeat this demon this time. They really like went hardcore, and they still don't get it.
Oh my gosh, I was gonna say the exact same thing, because like I will still listen to that song, because I'm just like, this is a bop, and they do a great job, and I don't know in what universe or for what reason I would ever need to do this or like have a chance to, but I just want to learn the entire dance and be able to do it. And
Kelly, you can learn that dance whenever you want.
You're right, I should. I have no use for it, but I'll just do
That's
that.
That's okay. It's for the love of dancing.
Exactly. We don't need a reason.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. So that's like definitely a highlight of the episodes for me too.
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite, because there aren't a ton of episodes to choose from.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed that one a lot. I also enjoyed the last few episodes as well, because they're just so action-packed.
So much fun.
And I don't know, you're seeing like different dimensions in these last few episodes, because suddenly they're on the world defeating demons, and then they're in Beyond the Boundary, and then back. It's a crazy mix of different things.
Yeah. Definitely a crazy back and forth. And I think when I originally watched it, I wasn't always keeping tabs on things very well for that ending as well. But maybe it's just like subtitles and stuff.
Well, I will say the ending still has me a little confused. And maybe you can help me, or maybe you are also confused.
Maybe I am. Who knows? We'll figure it out.
At the very end of the show, they show the very beginning scene again, but they show it from his perspective. And it always confused me, because I was like, are they trying to show just his side and what he said in that moment? Or is this some weird loop where they've gone back to that moment in time? So I wasn't sure if it was a time-lapse thing, or if it was just let's reflect back on this moment. Because the way it was placed, it could have been either. So, I don't know.
I'll say I've always interpreted it as just a flashback sort of thing. Like, let's go back to his perspective. But also, I'm going to look at the general synopsis right now, because maybe it'll provide insight. online somewhere. Doesn't she just come back? Okay.
She does come back. That
And
does
then-
happen. But then they show the scene where they first met again. And that's where we get to hear... Because in the very beginning of the show,
You're right.
it has his voice quiet, and we don't get to actually hear what he's saying.
And then I think it's just a flashback.
Okay.
To be able to, like, tie it back.
Yeah.
Like,
and
that's
what he
how-
actually said was like, I'll
the
do
internet-
anything for a bespectacled beauty.
And then I roll my eyes so big. But, like, the internet says nothing about it. So
Okay.
I'm going to assume that
Flashback.
I'm going with flashback. Honestly, interpret it as you will, but...
So
because
now,
I don't see how that would...
I do not understand how it would work either, but also the fact that Kiriyama was dead and then wasn't dead and then was dead and then wasn't
I know,
dead.
there's a lot of dead and not dead and fake death.
Oh my gosh. I was going to ask you what your thoughts were on consequences.
Oh, I know.
Because, folks, in the last few episodes of this show is the big battle, essentially. Beyond the Boundary is unleashed from our main character, Akihito. And as a result, Kiriyama is like Beyond the Boundary becomes like this big sphere, like a spiritual realm, essentially.
Yeah.
And Kiriyama is in the sphere fighting, and eventually Akihito goes up into the sphere to help her, and like, I don't know, they're constantly like sacrificing each other or sacrificing themselves for each other. So you kind of lose track of like, okay, who's actually dead?
Yeah.
And eventually
And it's like, who's in a coma right now and who's not. And
Right.
what's happening. And also, like, a lot of time passes.
Yes.
And I'm like, what's going on?
So eventually Akihito is the one who survives.
Yeah.
But then at the very end, Kiriyama shows up.
Shows up again.
So like, okay, now I don't know anything anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what. At the end of the day, I just want them to be together and happy.
That's fair.
But also, it's definitely a complete cop-out. And, like, I like consequences.
Yeah.
I do. Like,
I think they're great.
because, like, I want there to be more. I mean, the fact that it ends really with almost no consequences is a challenge for me. But ultimately, I'm okay with them just being happy and together. So.
Yeah. I will admit when we thought for sure that Kiriyama was dead and Akihito was going to be the one to live on, because he's like monologuing at that point. I was kind of like, oh, I don't remember him. Like, I don't remember her like being gone. Like, did she really die? Like, whoa. And then when she came back, I was like, oh, there it is.
Okay.
I was like, I'm pretty sure they got together. Like, something like that. So,
Oh dear.
yeah. The ending can be a little confusing to follow, but they're just in this constant in-between of the being in Beyond the Boundary.
In that
which
other
is-
dimension.
Yeah, it's a whole other dimension. So, that was interesting. And they've like, there are several episodes too where they will be in like other dimensions as well. Like when, so the gal that Kiriyama killed, her sister is Sakura, and Sakura is not born a spirit warrior, but just became one due to connections. And so there's this episode where she's trying to kill Kiriyama in revenge. And they're in this whole weird realm of like escalators and trains and all that. And it's just crazy. So this show takes you on a trip of places.
Oh yeah. And does it all make sense? No, but it's fantasy. They can do it wherever they want.
Yeah. And that's what makes it really cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very interesting. Again, it just like feels like this whole world is very strange and unusual and cool, and I want to know more about it. But in this little corner of this little story is very good. So, yeah, ultimately, like, rewatching it, it was still enjoyable, but yeah, just, like, different, you know? Just taking, like, it's always interesting to go back to things that you liked at different points of your life and, like, revisit them and see what else you're taking from them, or, you know, like, how because you're always viewing things through a new lens because you're always a new person every day, you know what I mean? Like, you're always changing. So I always find that, like, fascinating in regards to stuff like this. And, like, you know, I'm making different connections between different shows that I've watched now. You know what I mean? Like, and so that was kind of fun. Yeah,
no, I agree. It was really interesting to take a look back on it. And I feel like I was seeing it with fresh eyes because, like I said, a lot of it I was like, oh, I totally forgot about this. Or, like, I do not remember that at all. Like, just all these moments that I would have. So, yeah, it was a fun experience to, like, watch this crazy dynamic with new eyes, because it was something I had geeked out about early on, and now it's like, oh, wow, that looks so different now.
Yeah. The opening and ending sequences are still bangers. Like,
they are so good.
On our top 10 openings and top 10 endings podcast episodes, I think I have both of them in there.
Yes, I definitely had the opening as an honorable mention, and I felt so dumb because you had, like, played the song, I think, on your list. Yeah. And I was like, I know this song.
What is it?
I was like, oh my gosh, it's on my own list. Yes. It's fine.
Oh my god.
But they are so good.
It's, so good, so good. These characters are crazy.
You know who my favorite character is, though?
Who?
My favorite character is Shizuku, the teacher.
Oh my gosh, yes! She's awesome!
I love her so much.
Oh my goodness.
So when you're in this world, you're meeting lots of different spirit warriors, and because it's also quote-unquote normal life, like, you see all kinds of different people as warriors. So there is a specific week where there's lots of demons and they're more easily killable. So the teacher's like, oh, just FYI, I'm going to be taking next week off, so make sure to ask me questions now before I go. And the kids are always, like, assuming that she's, like, dating all the time because she doesn't have a husband. So they're like, who are you messing around with this time? And she's like, excuse me. But I just love her so much because, one, as a spirit warrior, she is such a boss. Like, she's an incredible fighter. But she's just, like, so sassy, no nonsense kind of personality. And, like, when she was, like, being no nonsense in front of her students, I was like, I relate to you. Like, when her kids would say really dumb stuff, I'd be like, yes, you are an idiot now. Okay. Not actually, I love my students, but she is just so fun. I loved her as a character.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Who is my favorite? If I had to choose, I think I might just say Kiriyama.
Kiriyama's hilarious. She just is great.
Yeah, because she's just so cute. And, like, because of, I don't know, because of her, she just, like, seems so innocent even though she's not. But also, like, which just makes for funny moments. Yes. You know what I mean?
How unpleasant.
Everything is how unpleasant. And so I think she would probably just be my favorite.
Yeah.
But
I like Akihito. He's funny.
Gosh, what a hoot.
But some characters that I also like, also Akihito's mom, like, oh my god.
Oh my goodness, we have to talk about his mother. His mom is absolutely insane.
Yep.
And, like, I literally don't know how else to say it, but, like, she just, like, is crazy and wears costumes that is strange.
Yes. She always sends a postcard to give him updates, and she's always in costumes of, like, different animals and whatnot. Super strange person, but crazily smart, too, because she, like, knows everything that's going on. But she's just so weird that you're like, what?
What is going on? Yes.
Yeah. The one character I wasn't a huge fan of the second time around was Miroku. He's the guy who's, like, trying to... He's kind of like the bad guy of the storyline, but he's not so much bad guy that you remember him.
Yeah, like, no, I seriously was like, which guy? Which guy? Oh, him. Oh,
because he, like, fights the older sister of the kiddos, and, like, he's just, like, trying to... I don't know, he's greedy. He's just trying to get power to, like, be over the clan or something. But...
he's a secondary antagonist at best.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of my, like, things that I didn't care for. I was just like, okay, I don't know what your motivation is exactly, but if you were trying to be the antagonist, the auditions were last week.
Yeah. That's exactly the vibe. Yes.
So it's just like, I think the main antagonist is just beyond the boundary. Yeah. So I wasn't sure how, like, his storyline fit very clearly. But...
No. I mean, I don't feel like it's... I feel like it was probably just like, okay, this is a good, actionable B-plot.
And I think it was trying to, build some tension, because the older sister, like Mitsuki and Hiromi's older sister Izumi, she is kind of like the leader of their family, and I think it was to create some sort of tension and, like, understand what their jobs and roles are in the spiritual realm. But yeah, it didn't quite land this time around.
Sure, yeah, I can totally see that. I can see that for sure. So, yeah.
Lastly, I want to mention Miss Ayaka. She is the demon who has the shop. And she takes in all the stones and gives people money for their work and all that. I just thought that she was a very lovable character. She's kind of like your Shigure, but without being, like, too creepy and manipulative. But you know, like, the character that's kind of always there and that kind of brings the kids together.
Yeah, who's kind of like, not necessarily like mom vibes, but like older sister. I don't know.
Yeah, like I keep all the kids come to my shop to talk about stuff, and like I'm there to help assist them.
Keeping an eye on them.
Yeah,
a little bit. You know, like
kind of like a mentor. Yeah. So I really like her.
Love it. Absolutely. Yeah, it was a blast to revisit Beyond the Boundary. Highly recommend, of course, like everything we talk about. Yeah. Comes highly recommended. It's fun to geek out about. And you know, for our last conversation, what a fun one.
Yeah. I would agree. Like, if you love fantasy, this is a great one to watch. And it's also humorous as well. It's got a good blend.
It's got everything. It's got everything for everyone. So it's a blast. So,
yeah, it was really fun to rewatch this one because, like I said, it was like watching it with fresh eyes. So I got to experience it in a new way, and so it was good.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So thank you for choosing Beyond the Boundary, Emma.
Of course, it had been too long.
Yes. And more importantly, thank you for being part of the podcast for 5 years.
It's crazy.
Insane. I'm still trying to figure that one out, how that happened. But as I mentioned, Fanimated is retiring. You can hear a more in-depth discussion about that on the recent What You're Watching, number 32 episode. So thank you all for listening to this podcast for 5 years.
Yes.
All of the episodes will be available on our YouTube channel at Fanimated Podcast on YouTube. And so you can go back to those episodes anytime. Our final new release will be September 26th. And the podcasting platforms will close December 31st. So again, you can listen on podcasting platforms up until December 31st. After that, like, just go to the YouTube channel. And if I have anything more to say, like, I'm always going to be a fan of animation. So if I have more to say or more things I want to do, it'll be on the YouTube channel. I'll just make videos instead. And yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to the next season of my creative journey.
Yeah, I'm really excited for you. And there's much geeking out to still happen.
Oh, yes, because there will continue to be really amazing things that come out. So I'm very excited about that. So yeah, we just appreciate your love and support. These 5 years, it's insane. And as always, the music is written by Janie Krause. The art is done by myself. You can continue to follow me on Instagram at CandorDraw if you want to stay up to date with my other adventures. And finally, but not leastly, thank you, Emma.
You're welcome.
Because you've been with me since the beginning. And here we are. So
And it's been a wonderful journey.
oh, thank you. It's been a true pleasure. Without further ado, for as many weeks as we still have left, we hope that you will stay tuned.
And stay animated. Oh, I'm gonna get emotional.
I know. I'm
Okay.
getting sad too.
We have a lot of great episodes.
Yeah. My favorites.